What is up, my Deliverance insiders? This is Andrew Lowen, designer of Deliverance, here with a pretty big announcement for our existing Deliverance players, as well as everyone that has backed the expansion campaign. We are making an update and an adjustment to Skirmish Mode, the pretty popular method of play where you just sit down for a random battle and go for it. So, um, one one thing is 75% of our players preferred the campaign when I pulled them. And the game overall is highly rated, but still, that's a pretty big margin. So there were a couple of problems that people identified in skirmish mode where, and I say problems, it kind of fringe problems, but some people are very determined to win at any cost, and by any margin of victory, if it can be the largest margin, that's better, right? So there were two problems that arose in our skirmish mode of play. First of all, let me explain. Skirmish mode is different than the campaign because in a campaign I guess scenario also counts for, in terms of this, experience is calculated differently in a campaign. You go through a mission, you fight it out and earn victory in a campaign. You gain experience that you then apply to your campaign character sheet after the mission is over. And that gives you your bonuses, your power, and whatnot. So you gain rewards after the mission. Now, in a skirmish mode, or in a skirmish game, or actually also in a scenario, you gain experience through defeating demons and protecting saints. So if you're fighting a fallen seraph and you defeat that, it's marked that you get 2 experience for defeating it. So and the old rules, I say old rules, were that in order to level up, you needed to earn enough experience to equal 1 plus the number of angels in that game. So if you're playing a 2-player game, you needed 3 experience to level. If you're playing a 5-player game, you need 6 experience to level. Now, we've made some changes. Let me explain to you the problems first. So overall, I'd say 85 to 90% of our players don't really care about this so much, but that 10 to 15% that do really care a lot. So the first thing is there was the potential for cheese, or what we call imp juggling, and also an XP or experience exploit that we call a saint abuse. And I'm going to share with you what those were, give you an example, and then we'll talk about what we're doing to fix those, or what we've done to fix them. I'm so excited because we've been able to make updates in the rulebook that don't require any additional components, that totally resolve these things, completely resolve these things. And then there's one other maybe minor thing that I think is also pretty important, which is related to burning time. So let me actually... let me add that to my notes because I'm going off some notes. I also have the updated rulebook. I'll show you guys some examples of the rules that we've updated in the actual rulebook PDF that I have that we're working on. And lastly, if you own a copy of Deliverance or if you play on Tabletop Simulator, I would like to invite you guys to a public playtest of what I'm about to share with you. I'll get into that later. So let's talk about the problems. The first problem we call imp juggling. Imp juggling is, meddling imps are generally like by themselves as a single demon are the easiest demon to defeat. So that's why we internally call it imp juggling, but you could call it demon juggling. You could, but in general, the game works like this. You have a hard fought battle in the first battle of a skirmish game. The first battle completes drawing the prince out onto the battlefield with his hordes of demons, and you win the skirmish by defeating the prince and his hordes. So what is imp juggling? Imp juggling is when you're in the first battle and you defeat every demon on the battlefield except for one meddling imp that really can't damage you very much, but keeps the battle going. And the players say, we can out heal this. We can control the darkness cards now. And so let's all just use double prey actions and heal when needed, and that kind of thing. We're going to cast on all the darkness. If you're playing a, I don't know, 4-player game, that's 8 prayer actions, and one little imp is just trying to knock you guys down. You're totally going to be fine, right? And for the most part, this is meant to it's to fill you up to maximum on your courage, as well as the number of prayer cards in your hand, and even players with certain characters would even max out on their shield that they have, so that when they go into the next battle, they go in as strong as possible in order to cheese, what I call cheese the fight, which is, you did everything that you needed to do to max everything out, and you get rewarded for that with an easier fight, or you have a bunch of answers in your hand of prayer cards that give you a real advantage. The problem with this is I like that players kind of figure out how to min max, but it takes a lot of time to do that. You might as what it's like a burning time is the way we call it, but it's a real time sink when you're like, yeah, we can give ourselves the best shot at victory if we just spend an hour using prey actions and setting up another round and pulling the prayer or the darkness cards out, and then more prey actions, and then one more round. And that's a lot of time that I don't think you should be incentivized to play that way. Now, the only types of people that tend to play this way are new players that, there's always a certain mindset of a player that you'll be a new player that is looking to get your best shot at victory. You don't know what's coming up, so you want to try to be as defensive as possible, and so you go into the unknown, which is the next battle, with as much strength as possible. Oftentimes this happens in the lowest difficulty of the game with players like this. And then you have another player who's very, very skilled at Deliverance. They know exactly what's coming, and they need to give themselves the best shot, oftentimes on Abyssal or Infernal difficulty, some of the highest, most punishing difficulties in Deliverance. And those players will say, yes, we can go in, we might be healthy and in a decent position, but guys, you don't know what's coming this next round. I do. We need to strengthen up, and that's where the Imp Juggling will happen, where they'll cheese in the game in order to max out on courage and prayer cards and that kind of thing. And obviously, as the designer, that's getting around the intended system of this game should feel hard and scary and all of that. So some players, and I'm probably blowing it wide open with this video to all my Deliverance fans to tell you that that's possible in this current version of the game. Not anymore, though. But let's talk about let's talk about a fix. The simplest fix. There are actually a combination of fixes that I would like to get into, but the simplest fix is in Skirmish Mode. We have now set so that you have to track the number of rounds, and if you make it so, like, you put an action token on the time XP track, and it moves up at the beginning of every round. So the very first thing you do right after the setup is over, you're going to increase that by 1. So it goes from round 0, which is setup, to round 1, which is the first round of the game. Everything happens, all the angels, demons use their actions, and then now you get into the next round of the game. You move that round token to round number 2, and so on. For those of you that backed the Deliverance expansion campaign, you guys all received a really cool metal token for tracking the rounds and everything. I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is right now off the top. It's not like in front of me on my desk, but you have a really cool metal round tracker that also tracks experience at the same time. And but anyway, so you don't need any new components to do this, which is really cool. But we do have a fancy upgrade that combines 2 pieces, which is the XP ring that tracks the amount of experience you have, and the action token, which is used as the round tracker on that time XP track. The key is that if you make it to round number 6 without progressing to battle number 2, that means that in the skirmish mode of play, you fight the first battle. If you don't defeat all the enemies by the end of round 5, and it gets to round 6, meaning at the beginning of round 6, the round marker moves forward 1 to round number 6, you just lose the game because the prince you're chasing down, you're hunting a fallen prince that has been eluding you for centuries. And so if you delay long enough, the enemy forces have successfully distracted you for long enough that the fallen prince has eluded your grasp. So thematically, it works. It works with Deliverance in the way that the game functions, where the demons, really the princes and lieutenants, try to lead their hordes of darkness from the shadows, and not, make themselves obvious because the angels outmass the demons, so they have to be clever, right? So we considered making it like one thing we considered was you would just stage the next battle, even though there were other demons in play. But that's not really what the princes want. They want to escape you so that they can continue to cause trouble from the shadows of safety, right? So now I'll mention the skirmish mode of play. I've played, thousands, like not exaggeration, at least 2,000, maybe more skirmish games. And what I have noticed with a wide variety of skill groups is that the game often, the first battle of a skirmish, the final battle's different, and there's no limit on that final battle. You do not lose if you make it to round 6 or whatever of the final battle. There's no loss condition there. It's either you beat the prince and his demons or you're defeated. So I want everybody to know that. But I've noticed that game groups typically finish within 3 to 5 rounds. We'll say 3 to 6 rounds. And let me explain. Round 3, if you finish a first battle in round 3, you're probably a very skilled veteran gamer. You've played Deliverance a lot. You know how to be efficient with your actions. And maybe also the conditions arose such that you were able to hit multiple things with your attacks, and you're able to clean out the demons a little quicker than normal. So that's what I consider elite. If you beat the first battle of Deliverance in round 3, that's generally an elite player that can do that, a veteran player. Round 4 is what I would say is kind of fast to normal, depending on your skill level. So even like the highest skilled players of Deliverance oftentimes take 4 rounds to complete a battle. So that would be normal for them, but it's fast for newer players. So newer players that aren't quite as efficient, meaning like maybe your area of effect damage, if you played a little differently, you might have been able to hit one more target. That type of thing, you might not be as skilled to figure that out, how to make that happen, as well as the veterans. So you're going to generally, round 4 is fast for you, and then round 5 is what I would consider normal for you. So that's all like newbies to like novice players alike. Round 4 is fast, round 5 is normal. Round 6 is slow, or you're abusing the system. So I find that if you take 6 rounds to play, you're either a new player or a veteran that's abusing the system. So if you're a new player, you probably have been playing for a long time trying to learn the game. You are just trying to get systems down. By the way, for every new player, I tend to recommend the first 4 missions of the campaign first, because you get trickled in the mechanics of the skirmish mode. And by the time you get to the 4th game, you're playing with all the components and all of the, you've seen everything, so that when you play a skirmish, you actually, all of the things, and you generally have a handle on all of it. So, but if you get to round 6, and you're completely new, you've probably been playing for like maybe 2 hours because you don't know how this game works and you're trying to, figure out for your very first time or whatever. Or again, as an expert, you are abusing the system and trying to get those prayer cards. I know there are people that are watching this that are probably laughing to themselves like, yep, that's me. And that's totally common, but we're going to make it so that new players have an incentive to finish the rounds before round 6. There's now a strong incentive because you lose the game if you hit round 6 in that first battle. So, and obviously that that makes sure the veteran players can only cheese up through round 5. So let's talk about, let's get into the next thing, which is really related to burning time. So burning time is something that that we consider when veteran players are like, hey, we could finish this at round 4, but why finish at round 4 when we could just use prey actions, handle, control of the demons enough that, now we're on top of it. We'll use a bunch of prey actions. We'll get to round 5. We'll use some more prey actions, and then we'll defeat the enemy. And what I'm thinking about, that costs a lot of time, like in real life, where you're like, I see the best way to do this. And what we want to do is, I don't want to like completely eliminate that possibility. I just want to curb it a little bit. So in addition to, obviously, you're not going to be able to do that forever. If you're in the first battle, you've got a limited number of rounds now, which is the first very important guardrail. But the second thing is the rewards that you get. In fact, let me share my screen here, and let's look at these rewards. I wonder if I can like zoom in and let's see. No, here we go. Sorry, guys. I'm noob with this. All right, no, I just want to move. Sorry. I'm not a professional with Illustrator. I need to delete this. Okay, so staging the final battle. So first of all, this is new. In Skirmish Mode, once the last remaining demon in the first battle is defeated, players should immediately move into staging the final battle. This is new. In addition, if the round counter reaches 6 in the first battle of a skirmish, and at least one demon remains in play, the prince escapes and the angels lose the game. So there you go. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So, staging the final battle. Immediately after all the demons are defeated, you remove all status effects, discard Face Stone Darkness, remove Saint tokens, you keep your angels where they were standing, you revive any defeated angels, and then this is the major change. By the way, this is updated from the first rulebook. We didn't have Step E here, which is something that we assumed everybody knew, but they didn't. So now, for each unused action an angel has remaining, draw 1 prayer card and also choose 1. Gain a courage, cast down a face-up darkness card, or heal 2 damage. I know that you guys are excited about this. Those of you that are veterans of, there we go. I got my panning little hand. Those of you that are veterans of Deliverance, you no longer need, so if you decide to cheese the game, and you could have finished it in round 3, but the end of round 3 barely, but you'd be low health, oftentimes you take another round to like build up and strengthen yourself and whatnot. That's really common. And now if you want to take a cheese round, you no longer have to take the entire, if the way that it used to work is for each unused action, you could gain a courage, you could draw a prayer card, you could cast Under Darkness, or heal 3 damage. That was the choice you had with each available action. And the problem is that the action token, if you just spent an action on a prey action instead, you'd get a courage and a prayer card. So why would you end early and get only one of those when you could spend more time and get both? So this caused players to have to burn time. It takes like 15 minutes to complete a round in Deliverance for some players. So they will, maybe like 10 to 20 minutes generally to complete a round of gameplay, depending on player count and all that. But this removes the need. So let's say you get to round 5. You're like, we're totally cheesing it. We don't care what Andrew says. We're doing it the best way. Now you can use your first action to knock out, or maybe even a free action that you have to knock out that last demon and instantly gain the benefits of double prey actions, for your action tokens, because you get to draw a prayer card and you get to either gain a courage, which is, those two are in essence the benefit of the prey action. You can cast down a face-up darkness card or heal 2 damage, and it's a guarantee. So you can draw a prayer card, cast down a darkness card, draw a prayer card, heal 2 damage, draw a prayer card, gain a courage. That I believe is going to incentivize players to not want to burn time anymore. So now, let me get back to my notes and talk about Yeah, so we really boosted the rewards between mission or between the first battle and the final battle, to incentivize players to do what is desirable for them and us. I want you to save time. I don't want you to have to go through the motions of like, well, we're gonna whoop this fight here. The meddling imp is at 1 HP. We can knock him out anytime we want, but we want to get the greatest rewards possible for the next battle, and so that will help curb that so players don't feel like they need to do that as much in order to earn victory in like higher levels, because Deliverance, it's a very punishing game. It's difficult. It's not an easy game, right? So people are often looking for any opportunity that they can to swing things in their favor. I just don't want players to have to feel like they have to exploit the systems of the game to do that, which is why we have one last adjustment. And this is a big one. I'm excited for you guys to talk about this. Let me get back to this. Okay, so this is the big one. If the group experience tracker has stored an amount of experience equal to the number of angels, each angel grows in prowess by gaining a level. There's a huge difference here. It used to be the number of angels plus 1, right? As I mentioned earlier. Now it is simply the number of angels. You would think that there is more experience available. However, that is not the case. And the reason for this, let me find it. I'm going to go to Saints. Okay. Saints experience and revival is one of the pages, page 24 in my rulebook that I've got here. Saints no longer grant experience. So this is, in essence, for every player, you would draw a battle card. So on that battle card, or for every angel, on that battle card are typically like 2 demons, sometimes 1, sometimes 3, that are each worth experience, as well as in every case 1 saint. The saint is kind of the battlefield objective that makes you want to move around, and it incentivizes you to move around, because if you protect them, you used to gain experience for that. But if you failed to protect them and they remained on their oppressed side, so this is the blue side in over here, they would cause more darkness cards to come out during the darkness phase, which is terrible. Darkness cards do awful things to you. You don't want darkness. So you want to protect them. And originally, when this is back in like 2019 or 2020, I remember players were like, I don't like that the Saints don't give any positive benefit. They wanted to gain like a boon of your choice or deal damage or whatever, a lot of cool effects. And we settled on, well, let's just use them to give 1 experience. So they're not super duper impactful, but they're not like purposeless. And so you really want to get you want to protect all 4 of the Saints in a 4-player game so that you can get that 4 experience, 1 experience per Saint. Now, because it's the number of players plus 1, you would need Saints to gain levels. So if you want to gain your, if you've got whatever, 6 experience, or let's say 8 experience worth of demons out on the battlefield, and you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to need, in order to level up, it's 3 experience. So you're going to need to protect 3 Saints. I'm sorry. You're going to need to protect 1 Saint to get that critical 9th experience point, because you want to level up 3 times. Now, in the new system, a 2-player game with 8 experience on the battlefield, you're actually going to gain a level per 2 experience. So you'll gain 4 levels. So it actually is a net positive overall, and for the players, but it also prevents, very, very importantly, an experience exploit that very, very good players were doing, or players that kind of figured it out that were very clever. We call it saint abuse. Okay, so let me show. We've got different examples. That we've got huge examples during in the rulebook. Okay, let's look at this for everybody, just so you guys can see an example in front of you. I've got my little cursor. So let's say that Shula is playing here. She wants that oppressed saint to be protected. So what she does, she's going to move 2 spaces with one of her actions, or her free action movement, and then she's going to use Force Beam to knock this meddling imp away, probably vaporize it in the process. And by doing that, she's going to be adjacent to that oppressed saint, and she's going to flip that saint to the protected side, which is a huge thing. You really want to do that in Deliverance. These darkness cards are really terrible. And so when she moves and protects that saint, gets that experience, you would expect that as a guardian angel, you would want that saint to be to remain protected. But in actuality, in Deliverance, you can gain more experience if that saint gets oppressed again. So Shula moves to the ideal spot, and then for her last action, she's going to move away into this space where she's no longer adjacent to the saint, so that when the meddling imps activate, they both run to attack her, and they are now the closest character adjacent that is adjacent. Well, the only character adjacent to the saint. So the saint would go from protected, which Shula spent that time protecting the saint, to oppressed. And if Michael comes in and then vaporizes the demons and moves adjacent to that saint, that's another experience point gained for protecting a saint. And that's not what we ever wanted. We didn't want players to find ways, and it gets even worse with Sardius. You can actually cause like use the imp. I mean, all this together is like a dastardly, depraved combination of skills. If Sardius was in play, he can move 3 targets. So he can move himself, he can move a demon away, and then he can move a saint away if he wanted. And clever Sardius players were able to protect a saint and then oppress a saint in 1 movement. So with a free action and 2 additional actions, that Sardius player could gain 3 experience in per turn. It was like, it's unbelievable if you could get that set up. And that really is an exploit that not only did we not want to have, I never intended, and I feel like it kind of goes more so than anything else. It really goes against the spirit of Deliverance. As a guardian angel, you don't want to be like letting your saints suffer and abusing them. It really is a backwards idea. But when we released the first edition of the game, that was kind of the compromise that I made with players that really wanted something to like some positive impact from the saints. And we do have actually in our scenario book that's upcoming, we have 1 mission in particular that I just love that really uses the saints. But there are other reasons that you would want those saints protected anyway. Like the bad stuff stops. It doesn't come out as fast. The darkness cards, right? But I think that with the benefit of hindsight and tens of well over 10,000 playtests, probably 30,000 playtests or plays of Deliverance after it's been released, we're now able to see that's a serious problem. Also, in the campaign, of the base game, you do not get benefits from protecting saints other than the darkness slows down. Really important. But nobody complained about that. Not even 1 person complained that, the saints aren't powering me up, and I kind of took that as, to mean that, hey, maybe the wider group of Deliverance players doesn't feel this way. And so we're definitely just simply having the saints in the game allows us to make, well, I guess we can reference saints in the rules of scenario missions or campaign missions and do cool things with them still. But now there's still, in my opinion, an equal amount of desire to get those saints, because you really, really need to stop darkness from coming out. And it cleans up the experience exploit that players could cause. So in conclusion, just a quick, saints don't grant experience anymore. Instead of granting 1, they grant 0. To compensate, the amount of experience required to level is the number of angels rather than the number of angels plus 1. So the number of angels in the game. So 2 experience in a 2, 3, or 3 experience in a 3-player game, 5 experience in a 5-player game, etc. Next thing, you lose the game in round 6 of a skirmish mode if you have not progressed past the first battle. The reason for that is the prince escapes. It stops cheesing and that kind of thing. To compensate, we've boosted rewards to remove the player's desire to delay the battle or to ending the battle 1. Again, you get the prayer card and courage, prayer card and healing, prayer card and casting down a face-up darkness card. So you always have tools, more tools than you used to, in addition to the normal leveling up process. When you go to the final battle, you gain a free level, so you're going to get a new talent or a new heavenly treasure card. But also, if you were in a difficult position before, this is like these prayer cards are going to give you a stronger position. Just in general in the prince battle, which, let's be honest, is quite challenging. So this also, I think, is going to really help players level up the difficulty of the game. I tend to really enjoy plays at Nightmare or Abyssal. Infernal is like I'm punishing myself. But now with this change, I feel like I'm going to be more capable to consistently play in the highest echelons of the game, which is the type of gamer that I am. And of course, because I made this game, I should be dang good at it. And so there you go. So now, Deliverance players, I'd like to invite you to a public playtest of this rule set. If you guys, even if you guys have played the game and have an opinion about what I shared with you, I'm still open-minded to listening to feedback if there's something else that I really missed that you wish we could add. A lot of the time, some of the things that I'm not considering, I'm not open to things that would add like another paragraph to the rulebook that I need to explain. I'm very excited about if we can get stuff that reduces the amount of writing in the rulebook. But in general, we're pretty happy internally with these changes, and I would like to hear what you have to think. So please comment in the video, just your opinion, or share with me, send us an email, send us a message on Discord, or our Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And Andrew Lowen, over and out.